I'm Scott Al Miller. It is the 19th of June, 2022, and this is my vlog of daily life in Nicaragua. And that it's the 19th means I'm just 3 days away from heading out on my vacation/adventure with Yvonne to Honduras, El Salvador, and especially Guatemala. So we're starting to be under pressure. That is coming up really soon. Today is Sunday, and I'm going to talk to you guys about some real estate stuff again, because people always have questions, and this is a popular topic on the channel, and I haven't done a lot recently. So I want to cover a little bit before I'm heading out, because I'm going to be just Guatemala content coming up. Real quick before that, today was a busy day for me. I worked in the morning just in my office doing my normal stuff, and then pretty quickly it was time I needed to go out and do some work at the beach because they need some stuff out there from me, specifically some computer stuff. So kind of midday, kind of lunchy time, Kat went with me and we walked into Sutiava, went to the Mercadito and caught the bus. This is actually my first time catching the bus out of Leon to go to the beach. I've ridden the bus, but only around the beach. This is the chicken bus. This is the old American school bus, painted up, and then it takes you down to the beach. So I've never done this. Dominica's done it a bit. Kat's done it a bit. It's weird that I'm the one who hasn't. It's the easiest thing in the world. There were actually quite a few extranjeros on it. We got onto the bus. It's very packed, but it's always really packed, right? That's how they make their money. The trip is only about 50 cents. It is 18 Cordoba, which is almost exactly 50 cents. It's like 51, 52. So it's very, very cheap. It takes 30 to 40 minutes. You're packed into a school bus, but they do have bars on the top so you can hold on, which they don't do in the United States. So they alter them for additional safety. While I was on, there's a couple girls from Germany that are just in Nicaragua for a couple days. Talked to them a bit, gave them some guidance. They're going to Playa Roca to hang out. And it was actually a very pleasant trip. I don't mind taking it at all. I took this opportunity to deliver the new laptop out to the beach. They've been needing that for a couple days and it keeps getting missed. So I took that out. And then my big thing is I got out there, got some lunch, and then I got to work fixing all of the networking equipment. We've just had a nightmare dealing with it, mostly because it was all used equipment that's come from other sites. And when it got put in really quickly after we installed it, we actually had our controller crash and it lost its configuration and on and on. It's a big story. So I spent about 5 hours continuously working on that to get it working. And it's all working. We have much more equipment than we used to have. It's in great shape. I'm very happy with the state of everything now. So I'm looking forward to that just being more stable and fast and much easier for us to maintain in the future. So that was a good productive day. Ate a couple meals out there, got some takeout food to take back to the family because it is Father's Day in America. So want to spend the evening with my kids. As soon as I was done working at the beach, I took the taxi back because I had food. Leo drove me back home and fed everybody. And as soon as we were done eating, the girls and I got to work playing Nancy Drew Creature of Kapu Cave, which we did record. We got 2 videos, I hope, fingers crossed, I have not seen them yet, from that we're hoping to get edited and posted pretty soon. So check out Loaf Gaming for me and my kids doing video games. It's just our audio in the background thing. Okay, so that is the day. Now, let's talk some real estate. All right, real estate thing number one. One of the most important things as someone who's watching this channel that you need to understand if you're going to be coming to Nicaragua to look at real estate, whether it's a home or a property for a business or a farm or whatever, is that I'm sure you've heard the concept or the term of the gringo tax, and it's important to understand that this is real, right? If you have never heard the term, the gringo tax is simply an expression used to mean that foreigners, especially people from North America, the United States, Canada, England, whatever, are likely to be charged more for the same goods as someone who is local or at least from a related cultural country. So someone from Guatemala or Colombia or whatever. And okay, fans on the bus. That's on me. That was awesome. This is common, right? And it's not going to happen in a McDonald's. It's not going to happen in a normal restaurant, but it is certainly going to happen at a street stall. It will happen if you go shopping in the park. Dominica has had it happen where, you know, someone will ask the price of something and they'll say the price and then she'll go to buy it and they'll be like, oh no, it's a different price. And she'll be like, I know you're gringo taxing me. And they're like, tough, no, that's our price for you. And it's not like it's illegal or anything. And it's not all that good. Like, honestly, Americans, Canadians, like we earn 99.99% of the time so much more money than someone who is local that it's kind of like, it just makes sense for us to pay a little bit more for a lot of things because it's important for people to earn their keep, and they can't charge other locals more because it's a really tough environment. I don't feel bad about it. I guess that's the important thing. And when you're buying a cup of coffee or you're haggling over the price of something in a stall in the market, simply being a gringo means that they know you can pay more. Sure, you could, pay less. They could still make money, like someone else could pay less, but that person can convince them, I don't have $2, I'll give you $1, right? Is it worth it or not? But it's very hard as a gringo to convince someone you don't have $2 because they know you do, right? Just to be allowed to be here, you have to have a certain amount of money. You have to guarantee you have it. So they know you could afford some basic things. And even if nothing else, like they know the market's good in the United States. Maybe you're not working and have no money, but you could work and have money if you chose to. So it's an option not to have money. And if you have the option not to have money, it kind of means you're affluent, right? So one way or another, I'm not arguing for or against the gringo tax as a concept. I'm just explaining what it is, but also buffering, hedging. It's not as bad as it seems. It sounds like a terrible thing. It really isn't in most cases. But when it comes to something like business or real estate, it is a huge factor and can be the difference not of $1 here or there or 10 cents here and there, as it often is. It can be the difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars on a property that shouldn't even be $100,000 to start with, right? It can be orders of magnitude more money because everyone's looking for a wild payday because they only have one thing to sell. If you're selling cups of coffee every few minutes, yeah, you're willing to risk losing a $1 sale in order to make it a $2 sale, and that may make sense. But with real estate, it may be that you have one thing to sell and you're willing to hold out a lifetime for a gringo who's going to overpay by an astronomical amount. So people really take the gringo tax seriously when it comes to real estate, especially because they know that nobody who is foreign has any chance of having accurate or complete information about market pricing. Even the locals don't have it, right? So for a foreigner to have it is literally impossible. And anyone who tells you that they have that information, it's not true. Some people are working really hard on collecting the best information they can get. Nika is a MLS out of Ometepe in the south, and they're attempting to gather some of that information. But even they, with they're not a seller, they're not a buyer. They're just collecting data, and they have an unbelievable uphill battle because none of that information is even disclosed to the government. The government doesn't know. Right? You can do your best to kind of piece this bit of information together, but nobody actually knows. So you have to start with the gap that you then have in knowledge is huge. They're going to gringo tax you. So almost everything that you really have to know about these kind of real estate rules of thumb are based on the fact that the gringo tax is so real and so significant and so prevalent. Okay, our first rule of thumb in real estate in Nicaragua is do not use a buyer's real estate agent. Now I say buyer's agent because some people got confused. You as a person buying a property do not choose whether or not there is a seller's agent. The person represent the property being sold. That is up to the person selling. And there's many properties that are represented by seller's agents, and that's fine. That's up to the seller. It has no effect on you, has nothing to do with your choices. But you as a buyer should not be going out and finding a buyer's agent, whether it's local or someone far away, someone who speaks English, whatever. There is no time where it's going to make sense for you to have that agent. And you can watch my other video, a couple videos on real estate in Nicaragua to understand why there's no way for an agent to really be good for you. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have someone help you. In fact, you need that. We're going to talk about that. But the people who are real estate agents, right? Traditional real estate agents who are paid a percentage for getting you to buy the most expensive thing possible are not going to be a good idea. In places like the United States and Canada, you know what a reasonable price is for a house. You are part of the hedge. You have legal protections. Here, none of that exists, and they are paid primarily. And this is not a indictment of any individual person. This is not a comment about what they're doing right or wrong. This is a mathematical fact. The primary pay for an agent in the traditional manner where they're given a percentage of the business, they are primarily paid for acting against your interest to get the price as high as possible while still getting you to buy a property, right? They are encouraged to get you to buy at any cost, but then to ratchet the price up as high as they possibly can. So there is nothing that makes them financially benefit from acting in your interest. I'm not saying what people do or don't do. I'm simply saying the math of how their system works is a conflict of interest and an extreme one, and essentially their entire pay and their entire success depends on not treating you well. And if you find someone who treats you really well, they have no way to make a lot of money for themselves because they have to act against their own business interest to represent you. So that creates a problem. But so it doesn't matter who you're looking for, it doesn't make sense. Now, having someone who represents you, yes, don't hire them as a real estate agent, hire an assistant, right? And we'll talk about that. Okay, second rule of thumb. Anything you can find online or in any way marketed to foreigners, right? Which you can tell. If you can find it, it's marketed to foreigners, right? Nothing you stumble across is meant for the local market. So all of that stuff is created with the obvious intent, and I'm going to use the word all because it's 99.9999999%. Yes, there could be, before someone threatens to sue me for saying the word all and then making one thing and saying, you said all. English, if you don't know the English language, all can be used to mean essentially all. It doesn't guarantee. I can say guaranteed all when it needs to be. Like every person who works under a paid percentage as a real estate agent is financially incentivized to hurt you. That's every single one. They are incentivized. It doesn't mean they do it. It means they're incentivized. That all things that are shown online are targeted at foreigners. Yes, there could be an exception. It's never going to be the one you find, right? But that's what we mean, right? So anyone who's taking the time, the effort, the money to get something, whether it's a YouTube video or a website or just posted anywhere except maybe Facebook in Spanish, those things are targeted at the hopes that a gringo is going to see it, that a gringo is going to be interested, look remotely, maybe fly down and see it. Sure, that's not a problem. But they're hoping that they're going to find someone who isn't shopping around, isn't looking at the alternatives. They're putting in extra effort to target you. And that means to get their money back, they're hoping for more money. Logically, it just makes sense, right? So if you're looking for houses online, yeah, that's fine. Look online, get an idea for what houses look like, what regions look like, what you're interested in. But be aware, anything that's there is going to be a price premium and not at market. It just can't be. Okay, so that's our rule 2. Our next rule is anything that's in English, same deal. Nobody does business here in English, right? Everything's done in Spanish. The moment someone is doing business in English or online, whatever, they know you're not a local. They know you're not going to be interested or need to pay market prices. So they're already, all of these things are triggering, they're setting off red flags, right? Okay, we know we've captured someone who went with an agent. Oh, we know we got someone who looked online, didn't do the normal Nika shopping. They want to see it in English. All right, all of these things, if they exist, if you do it, you are alerting people that you have money to spend, that you're not a local and not looking at the market. If they do it, they're telling you that they're shopping for someone from a foreign market that is going to be able to spend more. And so they have to, in order to do that, maintain a higher than market price. They have to, or the system doesn't work, right? So all these things, watch out. If you see a house listed this way, be like, oh, there's no way that's going to be cost effective because there are all these premiums involved in their process, and they would only do that if they thought they could get an unreasonably high price by doing so, because if they were just looking for market price, they wouldn't bother with any of these things. They don't have to. They don't need an agent to get market price. They don't need a website to get market price. They don't need to do it in English to get market price. Our next thing is anybody in Granada and San Juan del Sur. Now, we already said don't use an agent, but just in case you deal with anybody in any capacity in a real estate world, you want to avoid these markets as where your people are coming from. Not because bad people live there or anything of the sort, simply because these are high cost markets and they only make sense to use in a real estate context if your business is getting higher cost properties. Now, if you're looking for the absolute most expensive, I just want $1 million property. I want to have the most gringo property in the most gringo location, and I want to be in an enclave. At some point, you have no options, right? You have to deal with it in English. You have to deal with agents, but you don't need a buyer's agent in any of those cases. If you decide you want this really expensive property and you find, the resort that you want to be in, you can go to the resort or go to the seller's agent or go to the seller, right? And still make the best deal without an agent. Maybe you're only going to save a couple percentage, and maybe you have millions of dollars to spend and you could care less and you just want it to be as simple as possible. But even then, why, you don't make millions of dollars by throwing money away, right? So even then, have a lawyer do it, right? Not an agent, because lawyers are paid to represent you. Agents are paid to not represent you, and you hope that they don't do what they're paid to do. And they often don't, but you're hoping against their incentivization. All right, so anyone, especially San Juan del Sur, in order to have an agency in San Juan del Sur, you have to spend so much more on your office. You have to spend so much more on your staff. You have to spend so much more on your advertising. You're fighting an uphill battle against, the whole town is just full of real estate agencies, right? If you go to other beaches, they don't have any, right? It's a different world, but San Juan del Sur is just packed. When you drive around town, it's mind-blowing just how many agencies there are in one spot for very few properties. And when you go into these agencies, I've gone into some of the, quote-unquote biggest ones, and no one was there. You can't even find, you're like, hello? Like, it's weird. The whole thing, sometimes you can't get them to answer you. We spent, if you watch one of my episodes, we had an agency that we wanted to see properties they were claiming that they were showing. We couldn't get anyone to answer the phone at multiple different times. We've had things, because I do lots of real estate stuff, and sometimes you just have to talk to agents. Sometimes you're forced to. And we're constantly ending up in a situation where no one will call you back because either no one works there, they've gone out of business, their listings are fake, and they know that you're going to know in a minute, so why bother with the call? Like, I don't know, it's weird. But so avoid those markets. If you need someone who works in real estate for some reason, find them in a Nica market, not a gringo market. Even Leon, it's questionable, but Matagalpa, Managua, Jinotepe, right? There are Rivas. There are plenty of places where gringos are not the entire market, and if you needed to find a resource, I'm not saying you should, but if you ever need to, that is a way to find it. All of these things, it just comes down to, don't tell people you're a gringo. Don't advertise that you're a gringo. You need to shop like a local. So let's talk about that. How do we shop like a local when you're not, right? And I've done this a lot because I've lived here in and out for 7 years. I've bought and sold properties, both foreign and here. And I've worked with real estate agents, been burned 100% of the time, learned my lessons for sure, figured out some of the things that are going on. I've done without agents, not been burned. It's been absolutely fantastic. There's really a lot of protections. And I've spent a lot of time working with lawyers and investors to really understand what does make sense here. And so here's what I think people need to understand. First of all, you don't want to be buying property anywhere in the world ever that you haven't been there to see. Not because people are going to rip you off, but simply because you don't know if it's the building that you like, the structure, you don't know if it's the town that you like, you don't know if it's the street that you like. There's too many factors, and houses are too big of a thing in your life, right? You don't want to be doing that blind. It may seem like you want to, and I've had to do it before. You really want to avoid that if possible. That's just not a good process. So whether you're looking at Nicaragua or anywhere, you're looking at Spain, right? Go there and spend some time, put in the effort, and find a place that you want to be in. If you can't do that, if you're so wealthy that you need to, and this is fine, like I'm not making I have done this, right? If you're wealthy enough that you cannot spend the time, but you need someone to do that, then find someone you trust. And I don't mean someone local. I mean, if you have that person, great, you're golden, right? But if you don't have that person, find a person you trust from where you're from, right? So this could be my friend Rachel, who just bought a castle, by the way. Congratulations, Rachel, on getting a castle. She came down and did real estate work with me here in Nicaragua. And by real estate work, I mean bringing people from the United States and showing them towns and houses, but not selling, not agents, right? Just giving them tours and showing them neighborhoods and stuff and telling them, okay, this is kind of where you'd want to buy. This is what building versus buying would be, that kind of stuff. And I could send her someplace and say, go find me a house, and she would know what I'm looking for. She would know how to make me happy in a way that hiring someone or even just someone local wouldn't be able to do. She knows the things that I need in a house very well. So that could be a process if you need to work around that. If you're looking for something really expensive and you cannot be directly involved, so there's always an answer. Now, whether you come down yourself or you send a friend or whatever, a trusted proxy, you need someone local who's actually going to handle things for you. Now, I'm really lucky. I have businesses here in Nicaragua and did long before I was ever buying a house. So I have a team of people and people that I trust. I have business partners, I have investors, I have lots of people locally who are able to go out and handle a lot of things for me without being a gringo in any way whatsoever. And so they can go out, they can contact, whether it's sellers agents or just sellers, they can walk around towns. I can walk around towns, right? I can walk around and be like, this place looks like it's for sale, here's a phone number. I don't call them, right? I don't have my proxy if I have someone call them. I have someone local call them in Spanish, someone who knows the area, and calls up and is like, hey, I'm looking at a house, what are you gonna do? Right? And they get a local price. And they also are better at knowing when the price is too high, right? And so they'll be like, oh, 350? No, I was really thinking this would be more like 3. I guess I could come look at it, but I don't see how 350 will. Well, we might be able to talk with, right? They will work out a deal. And then when they've locked in the price, right? The price is worked out. Now, if it's just a rental, right? You don't have to like have a contract. What are they going to do? You know the price, right? Then you can come in and look at it yourself if you feel the need to. If it's just a rental for 6 months, maybe you don't even need to. No, trust me, it's a good place. It's 6 months, whatever, you'll like it. Then you can come in, maybe tip the hand of the seller or the renter, right? That you're a gringo, and it's too late. They've already agreed on a price. And then if you want it, great. $300 was already worked out. You're good to go, right? Or same thing with buying, right? You do need to be able to look. Very loud trucks today, as always. The mic really does a good job. And with the voice isolation now in Final Cut, we're pretty good on not having to worry about the background noise, but still. So have that person go out and look at those properties and work out the prices, or at least really close to the price before you start the process, and before anything happens that someone may realize that there is a gringo involved. That is simply the process you really need to do. Otherwise, you are going to be paying gringo prices every time. There's never going to be an exception to that because everybody is aware. Everybody dreams of hitting the gringo lottery and having something to sell of great value that will sell it 5 or 10 times its value to a gringo who has no concept of what the market should be. That's where you need to be aware. And it doesn't matter if you're buying from a local or buying from another gringo, right? Everybody is aware, right? If I was going to sell a property and I was talking to a Nicaraguan, I would be like, oh, I gotta make him a good deal or he'll walk away. But if I'm talking to a gringo, I know there's a 9 out of 10 chance they have no idea what the value is. And I may not make 10 times it, but I'm certainly going to make quite a bit larger percentage than I would on a Nicaraguan. It's just how it works. So you have to have that isolation. And then you worry, well, is this person that I'm hiring really going to represent me? Well, first of all, bring in someone you trust, whether you hire them or it's just a friend or whatever. You need to have someone you trust. If you don't have someone that you trust in the market, you're going to need to find a service that does that, or you're going to need to come down and make friends, right? That's one process. The other thing that you can do is work with a lawyer, right? And you need to have a lawyer no matter what, because you're dealing with property. If this is the United States, you need a lawyer. Right? You don't do property without a lawyer, but you only need a lawyer. So you could send a lawyer to do it. That's probably going to be expensive if you're doing anything. If you've already picked out a house, just send a lawyer, whatever. But if you're looking at properties and you need to evaluate them, sending a lawyer is going to be expensive, and they're probably going to be annoyed overall at the process. They may appreciate the work. It's hard to say. But when you actually come to doing the contract, making the deal, getting the property, checking out the deed and all that kind of stuff, absolutely, you have to use a lawyer no matter what. Even if you go with the high cost real estate agents in the traditional method down in San Juan del Sur and you go through all that process, they still bring in a lawyer at the end. They don't have all the legal stuff to do that, right? So you're going to need a lawyer no matter what. But have your own, have someone you trust, have someone you work with, and have a relationship with them as your lawyer, because they need to represent you. They're a really key part of your life anywhere. Right, so have a good lawyer here, and they'll take care of that real estate stuff and make that very, very smooth. And you can relax knowing that you didn't overpay. You can relax that everybody on your team is working for you, not against you, and that you have people you can keep using into the future. You're going to keep using a lawyer. You don't need to keep using a real estate agent. That's not a relationship you need to build as part of your life somewhere, right? But a lawyer is. Especially when you move abroad, having a lawyer who may handle your residency, people who can tell you about the problems, right? Another thing that we should mention is that a lot of people who sell real estate, anybody selling real estate has a very strong interest in convincing you that real estate will count towards your residency. Oh yeah, buy a house, buy a plot of land. It's over a certain amount, it'll get you residency, and it can under certain circumstances, but nobody discloses all those circumstances, and it's kind of, it's up to you. Sorry, the camera overheated there, first time in a long time. And so they may not know or care whether things are really going to count for your residency, and they may not be aware of all the things that you want to do, because a real estate agent or a real estate person in any capacity is not a business person, right? They're not there to advise you on your businesses or your residency. Those are separate things. So having a lawyer who can explain property law and business law and residency law, if that's something that applies to you, is an additional component that is important when you're going to live in any country, right? Just having someone who can handle all those things, because they go together, especially in Nicaragua. Most people are buying property or buying businesses or investing or whatever with some intent towards a investor's residency or a retiree's residency, and understanding how those decisions will play into each other is just something very important, and you're going to want a lawyer to explain that, especially if those things change frequently, and a real estate person may not be as up to date as a lawyer would be expected to be, and they may not have the connections and the the right processes that you need to follow, or if they do, they're still going to need a lawyer, right? So those are kind of my rules of thumb. Like, absolutely, I can't stress enough how perfect of a time it is to invest in Nicaragua. It's a wonderful country. It is a great place to invest in general, both as businesses or as property. I highly recommend that people consider it. I personally live here and love it. I am not trying to dissuade anyone from coming to Nicaragua to live or invest or to retire, but I want you to do it with caution and be aware that flagging yourself as a gringo to any person along the process and paying anyone to act against your interest, or hoping they act against their own interest with how you're paying them, is almost guaranteed to result in something bad happening that you can easily avoid. And there's a pretty simple process that will allow you to get the home of your dreams, the business that you want, live in such a wonderful country at a reasonable price. You don't have to try to take advantage of the locals. You simply need to pay the market price. You will be happy, they will be happy, everybody wins. Thanks for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe. I expect lots of questions and comments down below. I will see all of you tomorrow.